I see the film business is dying, actually, in many ways, unless it radically changes. In many ways, I think we're going to have to say goodbye to the networks. In many ways, I think they're a dying breed. You're not going to basically tell Martin Scorsese you're going to cut his movie. But Martin Scorsese will lose final cut if the audience, after a couple or two or three testing, doesn't like the movie. There's no banking, and if there's no banking, there's no investment. And then the sales agent gets paid from the collection agent. He doesn't take the money. If he takes the money, you're in trouble. You make your money as a producer by taking a nice fee, and you don't wait for the profits. I'm an entertainment attorney. I'm specialized in the film business. I'm also a litigator and a transactional lawyer in the film business. As an attorney, I had some litigation matters back in the early 80s with people in the industry, in the film industry, and I figured if my clients can do it, I should be able to make a movie too. So I started making my own movies in South Africa at that time, back in the 80s, and then got into production and distribution, and started to represent a lot of producers and financiers, and when they got into trouble, I sued for them. And so I did both litigation and transactional work. I think the studios basically are running these big blockbusters as commercials for their merchandising or spin-offs, games, video games. I'm very concerned about the actual present-day state of the theatrical motion picture. I think the more the studios have these brainless sequels, it opens the door to a lot of independents who make some decent pictures, but eventually I see a lot of theaters going out of business, and so that platform is shrinking, in my opinion. So we're all looking at other media and other channels to run the projects through. In many ways, I think we're going to have to say goodbye to the networks. In many ways, I think they're dying breeds, and the alternate venues, video on demand, and Netflix, and Hulu's, and the other channels of distribution are going to increase. If people are watching it on their phones worldwide and their tablets. I mean, kids are not watching TV as they used to, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's a whole new world. I'm in many ways sort of an old veteran from the old days, and I'm looking at the future, and it's baffling to a lot of us. And I think the young guys are going to really change it all. We're struggling to basically catch up with what they know. And so I think it's a great opportunity for young people who really know the new technology to teach the old fogies how to do it and how to rechannel our energies. And half the time I don't understand what they're saying. So that's where I'm sort of I figure that an archaeologist has probably discovered me at this point. And distribution and interest and waiting for the actors to be available and struggling to get a rewrite and dealing with the guilds, and the paperwork is massive. The volumes of papers and the volumes of legal work. So before you undertake that, you got to have a viable project, and what you need to have a good package. Package is a great script, an internet, some director that people know or the actors are willing to work with, and a good sales agent, preferably a good location where there are tax credits available for financing, and some equity, and that may satisfy a bank or some other lender. So that's where you start looking before you even venture into getting involved with people. It's a very difficult thing, and the easiest thing in this business is actually making the movie. Getting the movie made is the hardest part, and that's really the most creative part, in my opinion. You have a 4 to 6 or 2-month shoot or 8-week shoot normally, but you have sometimes a 16-month prep time with lawyers and insurance companies and bond companies and actors and agents, and the nightmare goes on. So the idea is that no one's going to take you seriously unless you have the rights. A chain of title, it's called. And you've got to basically make sure that it's a clean chain of title, that there are no co-writers, that if it's based on a book, you've got to have the rights for the source material. You've got to run through clearances, for a purpose of, if it's deals with people, living people or estates of well-known dead people, or question, is it public domain or is it purely fictional? There are a lot of considerations that for the chain of title. First of all, you got to make sure the cast likes the director and the director likes the cast. And usually a good actor has the approval rights over the director. A good director has the approval rights over the actors. So that marriage has to start. With the director, you've got to make sure, if you're a producer, that you have final cut. And that all guild issues are taken care of. So a distributor is going to not want to take it out on that basis. The cast, that's a nightmare. That's a nightmare. I mean, first of all, it's a financial aspect. It's availability. Gosh, there's so many variables to how to protect the producer from the actors. Many times, actually most times, the value of the movie is based upon the actor or the cast, at least in the foreign market. And also in the domestic market, for a distributor to basically agree to distribute the picture, if you have Brad Pitt, it's an important thing, but then you've got what you call an essential element issue, where if you don't have him, or he walks out of the set, you lose your contracts. So, or if he gets sick, or if he gets injured, so you need to take essential elements insurance on that particular person, and sometimes also on the director. Availability is an issue. Sometimes an actor has back-to-back movies, and you better shoot him out before the next picture, or you're not going to be bonded. Pay or play basically is a contractual obligation, where if you either pay him, and if you don't, if he doesn't act, or your movie falls apart, you still have to pay the actor. So, you are kind of stuck. Pay and play is a combination, but the pay or play is a problem because you could, it's sort of a chicken and an egg situation. In order to really create a motion picture, you're going to need a big actor and a big director. And in order to get them, you're going to need to basically secure them before you even go anywhere. And you can't get financing without a major actor or a director. You can't get distribution without him. So that's your egg, right? So you need money for that. And if these people are not secured, you don't have a motion picture. The key is getting a completion guarantee, which basically covers, it's probably the most important document you're going to have in the production of a picture. You need an insurance company that basically stands behind everybody, including banks and financiers that will basically guarantee the delivery of the motion picture. Delivery means a complete picture. And so that requires now that you have got to secure a good line producer that the insurance company recognizes as a person who is sort of the contractor, the builder on the set that will deliver the movie for the money, for the budget. You know, you give your bond company who are real experts in making movies, and they know the business. Well, you give them the budget, and you give them the budget, and you give them the screenplay, and they'll go over the screenplay, and they'll make a determination on their own how much this movie is going to cost. So they can break it down pretty well. You give them the elements of who you're going to put in it, your stars, your director, your basic department heads, the above-the-line personnel, and then, of course, the budget for completion and delivery of all the elements, such as, the actual film elements, and especially for theatrical release and the music and all the other stuff. You give that to them, and if they agree with the budget, then they'll give you a price that they're willing to, an agreement that they will insure it for that price. And so those are the elements they need, and they will not issue a completion guarantee until what they call the strike price is met. And the strike price is everything except the producing fees and sometimes a part of the director fees that they can defer, and their fees, and their big fees, and a contingency fund in case you're off. Sometimes contingency could be as high as 10% of the budget, which gives them a certain degree of comfort that they're not going to be faced with having to pay an insurance claim on the exact dollar amount. So they need a little bit of a cushion. And but they will not issue that policy until they usually are in control of the entire cash outlay for this movie, and it's got to be in their hands. So if it's a $10 million movie, that's going to actually, it could be a $15 million picture with financing and everything else, and producing fees. But if it costs $10 million in actual monies to produce and to pay the actors and to deliver the elements, they want to have the 10, and their fees, they want to have the $10 million in their escrow account. Otherwise, no bond. And if there's no bond, there's no banking. And if there's no banking, there's no investments. And so that's the circle. This is a very interesting question. I've created most of the big sales agents in this business, and New Image, and Franchise, and Millennium, and you name them. Foresight and Mark Damon, and just really dozens and dozens of them. I put it together over the years. The key is the bankability of the sales agent. So, because what happens is a good sales agent will be able to look at the project, look at the cast, above the line, and look at the genre. And they can make an estimate on the foreign side, which is everything except the U.S., sometimes the U.S. and Canada. They can make an estimate within 5 to 10% of what they're going to be able to get. And they give you a range. They give you an ask, which is the dream, and sort of a medium, and the take price. So there could be a difference of 50% between the take and the ask, or 100%. The ask price is the dream price. And so banks look at the take price, which is the lowest price possible. And if the sales agent is bankable, meaning that he has a reputation of actually delivering over the years these kind of, based on his estimates within a certain percentage, the banks will loan money based upon some of his estimates. So that's what you want. You want a bankable sales agent. You want a reputable one, and you want one that has decent motion pictures out there, so your picture is not the one that drives all the bad ones. you want to be really in a company of really good pictures, not a bunch of, $250,000 horror pictures, and then you suddenly have a $20 million picture with them. It's not going to fly. And you want a sales agent that has more than one or two movies. You want one that has a continuous flow of products, so the foreign buyers will continuously buy from them, and they have a list of ongoing customers from different countries. So selecting the right sales agent is quite important. The key basically is that if you can get what you call a gross corridor, you're in great shape. And a gross corridor basically says that 10 or 15% from every dollar obtained goes directly to the collection account. But if you can't get that, then it's really a question of who do you trust? Contracts that I've done with the Weinstein Company provide for a theatrical release, but then and that's what they have touted, but when you give them the movie, they at that point decide, no, we're just going to go direct to video or direct to VOD. The big key issue really in the independent side of the film business as opposed to the studio side, which really, you're really at the mercy of the studio. How do you protect yourself? As I say, you have to monitor you have to really define the what you call adjusted receipts, gross receipts. And that really depends on the project. If you're bringing a project to them, you're pretty well blocked. The only way you're going to get any kind of deal is if they come to you and want to be involved with you. But in the independent side, Lionsgate, and some of the other players in the mini majors, they call them, there you really have to be quite careful because they take a piece of the action. Lionsgate will take anywhere from 40 to 50% of the, quote, net profits, if they're ever. So but the good news about those mini majors is that they will give you an advance. And that advance could be used to finance the picture. The advance could be, it's not necessarily very high, but a few $1 million is better than nothing. It's good to have a domestic U.S. deal in order to generate interest in the foreign market, because if a U.S. distributor is interested, it becomes sort of a preferred picture in the foreign marketplace. So with companies such as Lionsgate, you have to make sure that their holdback is not, they can hold back the release, and they will not want any of your foreign distributors to touch the movie before they've had a chance to release it. Otherwise, it goes into the wide world of pirates, at which point it's a dead picture for all purposes. That fear, this holdback issue becomes a real problem. How long are they going to hold back the release, and will their holdback satisfy the foreign buyers? You need a good audit provision, you need a good attorney, and you need, because those, and you need to really, if they're going to do theatrical release, you really have to be able to penalize them if they don't do that. And Lionsgate will give itself an option to release it in theaters, but normally they will not. And or maybe release it in one or two, and the rest, and it'll be concurrent with the VOD release, video on demand. And at that point, it's gone. So what you see from the independent, from the small mini majors, is what you're going to get in reality. Because even if the movie is a blockbuster, after they take their big fee and all their costs, and there is some net profits, then they gobble 50% of that before you even have a dime. So the benefit of doing a domestic distribution deal is really for financing of the picture, and you hope you make your money from the foreign market. That's the way it goes. The key is that all the money that they generate goes through a CAM, where a CAM is a collection agent's management. There are two well-known ones. There's Vintage and there's Freeway. And those two are well-known collection agents. They collect the money, so the contract basically directs all the money that, and all the contracts that the sales agent makes to be paid. So if a sales agent sells your movie to Germany, the contract itself directs the German distributor to pay the money to the collection agent, not to the sales agent. And then there is a waterfall in the what they call CAMA, which is a collection agency management agreement, which directs the priority of payment. Of course, the first payment goes to the collection agent, and then sometimes to the guilds. But the major banks usually get paid outside of that until they're recouped, because they have a lien on everything, and they're secured on all proceeds. But and then the sales agent gets paid from the collection agent. He doesn't take the money. If he takes the money, you're in trouble. Action adventures, and maybe some historical, but most sports, comedies, racial things don't work too well. Foreign. So if you're counting on your money coming out of foreign, you got to be very careful what travels. And that's something that we all have to be aware of. So that's the reason there's so many shoot 'em out and killing and violent movies out there, because everybody understands that, unfortunately. The ones I've been doing about 6 to 8 a year on a sort of the Lionsgate deals, run about 10 to 12 million. Because you need a big actor to drive the foreign market. So, you get a Bruce Willis, or you get somebody of that ilk into Stallone, and you pay him $5 million to star for 30 minutes. But that drives it. See, that creates the foreign. You go to tax, you have already a pre-existing deal with the Lionsgate or companies like that, or Image or wherever it may be, Saban, and they'll pay a few million. Then you go to a tax-friendly state, for rebate or credit, and there's your budget. And you make your money as a producer by taking a nice fee, and you don't wait for the profits. Believing that if the film is going to be released theatrically, it's going to be a big blockbuster and it's going to make them all sorts of money. And rather than realize it's a business. And you've got to make, breaking even in this business because your fee is in the budget is already successful. But waiting for those home runs, for the Blair Witch or the little films that make $50 million every, coming out of left field, it's a dream. When everybody reads a screenplay, has their own movie in mind. When you read a screenplay, you see, in your mind's eye, you see a movie. And so the screenplay, you're in effect selling yourself. If you're even interested in being in this business, and then you believe in your own creativity. And some people luck out and they're really creative, but most people, just fall for that. And I think the rookie mistake is jumping in too fast, jumping in before the whole project is financed. They should be the last money in investors. They should wait until everything is in order before putting their money in, not putting their money in first and then wait for things to be in order.